Today we're relaxing into a cozy autumn forest, painting a misty path and adding two little ghosts for a unique touch. I'll walk you through simple techniques for the trees, leaves, and paths so you can follow along at your own pace in this full step-by-step tutorial. First, let's look at the materials you'll need. We'll be using an 1¼ oval mop brush and an 1¼ flat brush to blend our sky and to do some of our mist. We'll have a number 8 flat brush and a number 2 flat brush, a number 2 fan brush, and a number 1 round brush, and a 000 liner brush for details. And then I also have a palette knife for mixing our paint. And for our paint colors, I've got Ultramarine Blue, Lemon Yellow, Yellow Ochre, Black, White, Burnt Sienna, Vermillion, and Burnt Umber. And for our canvas, we'll be using an 11 by 14 inch for this one, but any size works. Alright, so we're gonna make 4 colors. So I'm gonna put out 4 big globs of white. I feel like I added a little bit more over here, so let me try to even that out a bit by adding more to these two. Okay, that looks a lot better. Then I'm gonna add a little bit of burnt sienna to this one, not much. A little bit more to the second one. Even more to the third one. And then the fourth one, I'm not gonna add any burnt sienna to. We'll come back with burnt umber and we'll do just a very small amount to this first color. A little bit more to the second one. And a little more to the third one. And then a really good amount for this last one here. And I'll just go ahead and mix all of those together. Okay, so this is looking pretty good, but I want to get this color a little bit darker and maybe this color a touch bit darker as well. So to do that, I'm just going to add a little bit more burnt umber to this one and a little bit of a bigger amount to this last one. We'll see what that gives us. There we go. I like that. It's a little bit better. Okay, now we'll go ahead and set that down. And I'll wipe off the palette knife real quick. Put that aside. And we'll go ahead and grab our 1¼ inch oval mop brush. And we'll dip it in some water. Get rid of a little bit of the excess. And we'll go straight into our lightest color here. And I'm gonna have the light source sort of be at the top of this, so I'll start placing it there. Grab some more of that. And we'll just do circular motions here. Get a little more water and paint there. And I'm gonna bring some of this over to the left side. Cover the top, the whole top of the canvas. Get some more paint. We've got it watered down just a bit too much, so I'm just gonna grab some more paint from down there. There we go, a lot better. Go ahead and work some of that. Get some more paint, I'll put some of that down here. All right, that's looking pretty good for that color. Now, I'm just gonna go right into that second color. Maybe get a little bit of water with it. And I'll start putting that along the edge of this other color. That first color we put down. Some in here. Grab some more. There we go. Blend it up a little bit. Blend it a little bit into that. Grab some more. Nice. Go ahead and get some of the last bit of that lightest color. And I'm going to throw that kind of at this bottom area. Okay, let's go into that middle tone, get a little bit of water. Let's get that middle tone. We'll start working this in this left side area. And up just a bit into this area. I'm gonna have it be a little bit darker over here. Shoot, we'll just come all the way down here with it. This will kind of be like the forest floor down here. So it's okay if we just cover the whole canvas, why not? Try to get some of that excess paint. Try to get that off. Or, you know, spread it evenly. Okay. Now let's grab that darkest color. And put some over here. Go ahead and throw some at the very bottom. All right, this is looking pretty good. All right, go ahead and rinse off that brush. Dry it off real quick. I'm gonna go ahead and clean it in a minute, but I want to go straight into blending this all together with our dry brush. And I want to use that 1¼ inch flat for that. So I'll set this one aside. And this one's already dry, so we'll just go straight in to our light area and we'll do light circles. Same kind of thing. And it'll just take out some of those brush strokes and blend this all together. We'll stay in the light spots first, and then we'll start to work into that middle tone. Uh-oh, we got a little brush hair in there. That's okay. We'll get that in a second. We'll just blend this out. Okay. We'll start getting into that even darker tone right here. And work in that edge. Okay, now we can get into that really dark color over here. Starting to pick up a lot of paint on the brush. What I'll do down here is I'll do some side to side strokes. Same thing right up here. Okay, I've got a lot of paint on the brush now, so I'm gonna quickly rinse it off. Grab some paper towels. And I'm gonna dry it off as good as I can real quick. And we'll go right back into this and we'll keep blending. Very lightly. Okay, now we can do some back and forth strokes very lightly. Sort of blend this all together here. And I don't really mind this little bit of that dark color up here. We're gonna have some trees on this left side, so that's fine. There we go. I think that's pretty good for what we want. Some little back and forth here. All right, nice. There'll be some land down here, so I'm kind of thinking about where the bottom of our land is when I'm going back and forth down here. And I'm doing kind of up and down right here because I know there's going to be some trees on either side. But this is good right here, so we'll leave that in the water real quick. There we go. Okay, now what I'm going to do is we'll let this dry for about 15 minutes and then we'll come back and we'll start putting some distant trees back here. So I'll see you in a few minutes. All right, so we're all dry now and I've just got some clean water and cleaned the rest of my brushes. And I also cleaned off my palette, managed to do that as well, but you don't have to. So next, we're going to mix up a very light color for some distant trees. They're going to be way back there, so I kind of want a tone that's slightly darker than this lightest color. So it's basically going to be pretty much like the background color that we already mixed up. So let me show you how we're going to mix that. So we'll grab our white again. A very small amount of burnt sienna. And an extremely small amount of burnt umber. Just a little bit. We can always add more color, you know, if we need to, but it's harder to lighten a color up once it's too dark, so we'll see what this gives us. And that's pretty light, and honestly, that's kind of what I want. You know what, I might just test it out and kind of see what it looks like real quick. And I'm gonna grab our number 2 flat. Whoa! I'm gonna grab our number 2 flat brush for this. And I'll get a little bit of water and some paint here. And we'll see what this does for us. So let's see. I think I want some shorter trees here. So let's see, there's kind of going to be this path right here. And then I want it to kind of disappear, you know, in the distance here, and we'll have some trees along the edges. So let's start kind of on this edge here. All right. That is too light. So yeah, I want it to be a little more like this shade right here. So we'll add a little bit more burnt sienna and some more burnt umber also. And we'll see what that does for us. I think that should be good. Let's go ahead and try that. Okay. Get some water again. Let's try some of this color. There we go. That's good. It's just barely noticeable against that background, and that's kind of what we want because these are really distant trees here. And I don't want them too thick. I kind of want them to be thin. So I'm not going to press too hard. Maybe we have one that kind of reaches out a bit. Kind of want some to lean over to kind of make it look like you're looking really far down this path. And so I'll make them a little bit smaller here. A little bit of smaller ones. Go ahead and add a few more here. Okay. Now what we'll do is I'm gonna go ahead and rinse that flat brush. I want to grab our 000 detail brush, and we're gonna add some very small branches now with this same color here. So we'll go ahead and grab some water and I'm just gonna roll it kind of through like that. And that's gonna give us that nice fine tip. We can start to maybe add a few little branches. And I'm just kind of lifting and wiggling. Grab a little bit of water. And I'm just gonna do this to all of our trees here. Kind of gonna leave these ones in the back. I might add just a few small ones, but this is gonna be really far away here, so you're not gonna see many details back there. All right, that looks pretty good for right now. So I'll go ahead and put this brush aside for right now. Rinse it off, dry it. I'll go ahead and do the same with our flat brush here. Get it rinsed off and dried and just set it to the side. We're gonna go ahead and grab our fan brush and we're going to use that same color while we got it. And we're gonna start putting some little leaf, like the accents, like there's some leaves way in the distance and maybe a few little bushes. So we'll get that. That is a number 3 fan brush with hog bristles. So it's really nice and stiff. So go ahead and just load up a little bit on the corner of the fan brush. And all I'm gonna do is just tap a few things. Just a few little things like that. So we can get that texture. So there we go. All right. Let's see. Kind of where I put these branches, I might just add a few things. They kind of reach out into this brighter area. And I'll just go down and grab more paint. That's what I'm doing when I'm coming down here. And it's okay if we get a little bit of this texture, you know, a little bit too much paint here and there. I actually kind of like that sometimes, so we're going to leave that a bit for this painting. I feel like sometimes that gives a painting a nice feel to it when you've got just a little bit of texture. It makes it kind of unique. So I'm just going to kind of put some over the trunks a little bit here. I'm trying to be very sparing down here because this is so far away. It really shouldn't look super defined like maybe some of this is up here. So just a little bit, kind of abstract if you would. Okay, I'm going to start making some little bushes way in the distance maybe. Actually, that's going to be the end of our path, so we'll start on the side. So we'll just kind of choose a spot here. Add some really distant kind of bush texture. And notice I'm changing the direction of the fan brush. And that just gives us that nice abstract kind of feel. Makes it look natural, like it's not so robotic. And I'll do the same over here. All right, now I want to go back. Make sure we get the rest of these trees with some foliage on them, some leaves. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and while we have this color, I want to kind of use it to just get some abstract, you know, foliage, because this is really the very background. So I want it to fill up a little bit of the sky. I want to leave some peeking through like we have around here, but I'm going to use it to sort of add some abstract leaves and trees in the very distance, kind of on these edges. So let's go ahead and do that. And again, just changing the direction, the fan brush, just using the corner, sometimes turning it sideways, kind of gets a lot more paint off the brush that way. And you can kind of think of like the tops of trees. As you can see, that just made it look that way. We'll do sort of the same thing over here. Kind of like the tops of some trees maybe. And some stuff happening way behind everything. Maybe I'll put a little bit more in the center here. Kind of like it's reaching over. I'm just grabbing a little bit extra paint to get some of that texture that I like on some of these inside parts that reach across. So I'm just picking up, see, a little bit more extra. Instead of tapping down here where maybe there's a lot less paint, I'm picking up just a bit more, loading up that brush a little bit more. And that'll give me that little bit of texture. All right, this is perfect. Maybe a little bit right here. All right, now we're perfect. I like this. This is a great stopping point for right now. I'm gonna take a little break and then we'll come back and we'll start working on some mid-ground trees. All right, we're gonna go ahead and mix up a darker color. We're gonna add some more trees now. All right, let's mix up this color. So we'll do our titanium white. I'm gonna use quite a bit because I'm probably gonna use this color for the next layer or two. So I'll probably make it darker as we keep going. So I'll put a really good amount of titanium white there. And then I'll go ahead and grab some of that burnt sienna. Close up that white real quick. We'll do some burnt sienna. And again, our burnt umber. And we'll see what we get from that. Of course, we want it to be a little darker than this, so hopefully that puts us where we want. Let's see. I want it to be a little darker than that, so I'm just gonna add some more burnt umber. Start with a little bit. And you know what? I think I'm gonna add just a very small amount of Ultramarine Blue, and hopefully that will cool this up a bit, just to see what that does for us. You can see how it sort of grays it up just a little bit. I think that's a color we can use, so we'll go ahead and use the number 2 flat, get a little bit of water. And let's see, I think I definitely want kind of one right here. It's not quite dark enough yet. I think I want it a little bit darker than this. Actually, you know what? We'll just go with it for right now, and we'll see kind of where we're at after. We'll sort of build the trunks a little bit here. Build the base of the trunks. Just a bit. You know, I think that's a good color. You'll notice that it's already drying, and it's drying just a shade darker than what's behind it, and that's exactly what we want. So we'll go ahead and stick with that. Maybe I'll put a couple small ones right here. And again, just using the sharp part of that fan brush, I'm kind of flattening it out on the palette. And that creates a really sharp edge on that fan brush. I mean, on that flat brush, sorry. And you're able to, almost like you're using a detail brush, get some really nice thin lines by just being very light and dragging that flat part up. Let's go ahead and put a few back here. Grab some water. To help with our flow. Sometimes I'll make ones that almost curve straight across. Just add some variation, you know? I'm going to go ahead and use this color while we have it, since we know it stands out really well against our background. And I'm just going to use it to kind of sketch the scene that I'm picturing. So I kind of want this path down the center. And I might have like this little fence with a lamp post or two right here. Go ahead and put one back here. Maybe it splits off a little bit. Okay, cool. I think we're gonna go ahead and use this color and try to get some of it down here, maybe like, you know, it's a little darker over here. So we'll use that color to kind of make some bushy texture back down here. And maybe it'll be behind this fence line. So To do that, we'll just, again, grab the fan brush, and I'm gonna load up the whole thing like this. Both sides. And I'll turn it sideways. And I'll start to kind of tap it like maybe there's some grass at the base of these trees. Maybe like a little bush around the trees. I'm sort of going to do this like angle, like maybe this is like dip, I don't know, before this ends, something like that. So kind of, it also helps draw your eye like inwards, if that makes sense. Now I'm just gonna add a little bit more brown to this. We'll just darken it up a little bit. I'm sorry, not brown, burnt umber. And I'm going to use that. And I kind of want to use that sort of in this corner. Very carefully. Kind of at the base of what we've created. And this will be like little shadows and things happening back here. I think we'll add some of this over here, like some foliage, because over here I want it to be a lot darker and moodier. I want most of that light to be on this side. So back here will be kind of like a darker, kind of creepier area. So maybe I'll add a little bit of this color over here as well. So I'll just tap some in there very lightly. And a lot of this over here is going to get covered with some big trees. So I don't want to go too crazy and cover everything. But I want to just get a few things back here. I want to leave a little bit of that light peeking back. Kind of looks like fog in the background. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and rinse this brush. We're going to bring in some black now. I'm going to add a bit of black. And we'll go ahead and mix that in. See what we get. We'll go ahead and mix it all in to that color we have. All right, at this point, instead of using that small flat brush, that number 2 flat brush, we're gonna go ahead and use the number 8 now, and we're gonna create some bigger trees now that we got a lot darker of a color. So maybe I'll grab just a touch of water in that new color that we just made. load the brush all the way up. And we'll try to find maybe a tree, a big tree that lives somewhere in here. Let's see. Let's have it kind of, maybe it sits right here, the base of it. Comes up. Kind of using the flat side to sort of sketch the outline. Then I'll just go ahead and fill it in a bit. Perfect. Now I can just take this and get kind of bold. And I'll just drag and go to kind of turn the brush. So now I'm using that flat part. And I'll just go right off the canvas up here. Then maybe, let's see, maybe it comes off this way. Goes off the canvas. There we go. This is going to be a great big one right here. We might even make this one just a touch darker. I'm going to go ahead and add just a little bit of burnt umber over here on the side. Mix that in a bit. And a little bit of black, so it's basically brown and black. But I just kind of mixed it a little bit with the color that we just had, that kind of grayish color that we used for this tree. But I'm also leaving a bit of that gray that we made for this tree because we're about to come in and add some little thin branches. But let's go ahead and get this big tree in. So I'll just mix that black with that brown, that burnt umber. Very, very dark color, which is fine because this tree is going to be very close to us here. You know, before we do this, probably let's go ahead and grab our detail brush. Sorry about that. And we're going to go ahead and put these branches. We'll come back to that gray color. And we'll just find some very light branches. And again, I'm just getting some water and kind of swirling it. And I'm just going to go in here and create a bunch of these little branches everywhere. And I want to make sure to get some that kind of lean out and over. I like that when it kind of covers. Feels like the trees are over you. So I'm going to make sure to put some of those branches that kind of maybe reach out a little further towards the middle. All right, I think that's good for now. Now what I want to do is I want to go ahead and add a little bit of yellow ochre. And we'll add it up here. We'll go ahead and add a little bit of burnt umber to it. Mix that up real quick. We'll grab a little bit of that gray, mix that in there. That'll kind of mute it up a little bit. Kind of create a similar color to our whole scene already. I'm trying to look for like a good color to maybe start adding some color to some leaves. And I feel like this might be a good color, at least for a base. So we'll grab our fan brush, make sure it's dry real quick. We'll go ahead and grab a little bit of that color we just made. And we'll start to find maybe a few leaves. A few things that stick out here. We'll add some up here as well. Change directions a bit again with your fan brush. All right, that's good. Now we'll go ahead and leave our fan brush in water for a second. What I want to do is maybe there's like a big tree over here and some branches kind of come off the page. So we'll go ahead and, they come from off the canvas. So we'll get our detail brush again, our 000, and again we're going to use that gray, kind of grayish color. Water it down a bit. And we'll kind of start off the edge of the canvas and we'll create some nice branches that they just kind of reach way out here maybe. Maybe one comes in and goes right off. And you can just have them kind of wherever you want. You can make some wiggly like that. Some of them can make sharp turns, you know, like that. You can just kind of vary it up a little bit. Some can go up, some can reach down. And when you want to make these super small, precise ones, just get some extra water, roll it to where you get a really fine tip. And all I'm doing is very lightly dragging that very sharp point, very lightly. And you try to have a steady hand, you know. Sometimes it's hard, but it doesn't have to be perfect. Kind of pressing a bit harder for some of these so they make kind of some thicker branches. And there we go. Come back to that leaf color that we made. And maybe there's some leaves on this side. There we go. I think that's pretty good for right now. Now we can come back to our big giant tree up here. Hopefully that color is not dry yet. If it is, you can just mix it up again using black and burnt umber, but mine's still pretty good. I just maybe grab a little bit of water to kind of revive it. And again, I'm just going to big old tree that lives right there. Maybe it splits off. Maybe it splits off early. And it comes clear off the canvas over here. We'll find its footing down here. We'll give it a nice, a little bit thicker of a base since it's a lot closer. And then I also want one more, maybe it's right on this edge over here. So we'll have this one be a bit closer to us. Let's grab some more water in that color. We'll have it just, maybe it starts right in front of it. And it just stays on the edge of the canvas. You know what, maybe we'll just use that flat brush still. And let's try to make a few branches on this bigger tree. Let's go ahead and make this part a little thicker that comes off this way. Maybe there's a spot right here where it reaches that way, and then it breaks off this way. Perfect. Nice, I like that. Well, I just stood up for a second and I realized that I was sort of zoomed in there, so I'm sorry about that, everyone. But really, I think all you kind of missed down here was how I tapered off these trunks and just kind of split them off in a different direction, almost like starfish maybe you can think of. But these would be like the trunks, or the roots of the tree. So we'll leave, all I did was make some of those. Okay, next what I want to do is we'll take some of that grayish color, which is this tree here, the same color as that one, and what we used for these branches. And I want to just kind of get in some of this path here. We'll just block it in real quick. So go ahead and do that. And I'm just going to go kind of side to side. Doesn't really have to be perfect. But we'll just block it in there. And then I'm just gonna go ahead and grab a little bit of white here. What I want to do is create maybe like a few more little trees back here. It doesn't look dark enough back here, so I'm going to take this color, this gray color I just did, and I'm going to add a little bit of white to it. Take some water. All right, so I'm just going to create maybe a few things back here with that lighter color. Kind of like some tree trunks. Yeah, it's looking a little better. And we'll go ahead and use that color while we got it. Maybe we'll just throw some stuff. We'll kind of use the corner of that flat brush. Some little kind of like grassy texture, but maybe it's kind of foggy back here, so you can't really make out a whole lot. Now what I want to do is I want to grab kind of that black color that we have, and I want to darken this gray up a little bit. And what we'll do is we'll kind of use that to create some kind of like maybe a few little details back here. Maybe like a different shade, maybe a few shadows. Maybe a few kind of branches. Okay. Okay, we're gonna go ahead and mix up a few colors for our trees here. We're going to start getting some color into this. So we'll get some burnt sienna and some yellow ochre. Mix that together. That is a pretty color. And what I'll do is I'll get a little bit of vermilion over here on the side. And we'll take a little bit of that and mix some vermilion into that. And that'll just kind of turn it a little more red on the red side. Then we'll get some white. We'll make a lighter tone of the yellow here. There we go. Now we have 3 nice fall kind of tones. We'll make an even darker one. We'll do a little bit of burnt sienna over here. A little bit of burnt umber. There we go. Now we have some nice shades to choose from. To start adding some color into, you know, some of these trees here in the middle. So we'll grab our fan brush. And I'll just grab maybe a little bit of the dark color. Start getting very lightly, just a few things here and there. And I'm just kind of gonna go over a bit of what we've already done. Kind of add that, you know, extra color in there. Here and there, I'll cover a bit of our trunks, just a little bit. Okay, very lightly putting some back here. Now we'll go ahead and maybe add some of our orange color here. And for this, I'm gonna go ahead and start adding it onto the center, towards the tips of the leaves, but also kind of in the bulk as well. Because this is still, you know, not our main highlight yet. Now what I'll do is I'll go into that lightest color that we have. And just the very tips facing the sun here. Some of the ones that might be getting hit from below with that light. Now what I'll do is I'll just grab some water here and I'll take that same color and I'm just going to make it a bit translucent. Maybe I'll grab a bit more white here. Some water, a little bit of water. A little bit of white. I'm looking for kind of a translucency here. Because I'm going to put just a little bit of stuff in the back here. In the very back. Maybe you see a few of these leaves back here that are getting hit. You know, they're still back there in the fog, but maybe you just see a little bit. Then we'll take a little bit of that mid-tone kind of, mix it in there a little bit. And we're getting a little bit closer now, so maybe there's a little more color back here. Take a touch more. Okay, let's leave that for now. Let's go ahead and grab that nice dark color that we have over here. And we're gonna load the brush up here. We're gonna start doing some work on some of this ground on the side of the path. We're gonna have it be like fallen leaves, basically. So I'm gonna go ahead and get our dark color. And we'll sort of make it like a base just start tapping in, changing direction. Just kind of getting some of that color in there. Not worried too much, but just getting that color in there. And we'll just fill this up all the way to the back, all the way till we get to the back here. Obviously, be very careful, you know, this big old fan brush. But what we'll do is we'll come back and we'll kind of put some fog over this so it doesn't stand out as much as it is right now. But we're just going to go ahead and tap it in just like we've been doing all along the side of this path here. There we go. Perfect. Okay, now let's grab some of our kind of mid-tone that we've created. And we'll start putting in some of that here and there. And when we do some of this lighter color, like I just picked up, we're only going to do that towards the center of the path. And maybe I'll get some texture in here. I'll just grab a little bit more paint very carefully. Tap some of that back in here. It'll make it feel like there's some little leaves and things. Grabbing some of that darker color. Not forgetting to add some of that kind of back in there, here and there. All right. I think that's pretty good for now. I'm gonna go ahead and rinse the brush. We'll get some of that white, some of our really light color. Oops. And it's almost white. You can see I've really brightened up that color now. I'll load the corner up with that. And I'm going to use that very sparingly. On just a few of these very inner leaves. A little too much water there. Okay. We're going to go ahead and make ourselves a little path color. So we'll get some burnt umber over here. Some black. And I've got some gray still, but I'm going to go ahead and also grab a little bit of white here. And I'm going to come down here with our number 2 flat brush here. And I'm going to go ahead and mix a little bit of black with our brown. Dip it in water a bit. And I'm going to start going side to side. Making sure to come up to the edge of the path a little bit. Not cover up the leaves, but kind of dig into the side a bit. Kind of like there's a shadow, you know, like some dirt, you know, underneath the leaves. So I like to do that. I like to kind of use that flat part of the flat brush and kind of go up in there a bit. And I'll just do this kind of zigzaggy motion. Make sure we get all the way to the bottom of the canvas here. We want it to look like it's going right off towards you. Okay, now what I'll do is I'll grab a little bit of white. I'll mix that in a bit. That's kind of a grayish color right there. Make sure I get all that brown into it. There we go. And I'll just put this same kind of motion, but a little bit more deliberate. So I'm not really going everywhere. Maybe I'm going kind of along the sides. Every once in a while I'll cross over the middle. And then what I can do is put some up in here. Maybe I'll grab a little white. And I really just kind of play with this mixture. I'll just add a little more white to it. And I'll start using the sharp part of the brush. Let's put a few things here and there. Maybe I'll tap the brush a bit to get some texture. Grab some more. Now what we can do is we can grab our pretty much pure black here. And I can put just a few things here and there along the edges. You know, maybe I'll even grab the liner brush real quick. We'll take that black. A little bit of water. Ooh, that's too much. And we'll do just a few things here. And I'm just kind of making a lot of little abstract things here and there. If I don't like it, I'll just use my finger and kind of get rid of it a bit, kind of blend it out maybe. Might get a little messy, but it's kind of fun. And I'm starting to like that a bit. I'll put some more along the edges. Maybe a few bigger things here and there. Like little potholes or something. There we go. That's perfect. Okay. Okay, now we've got some clean water here. And brushes. So real quickly, I want to use some of that darker color that we've got still. Maybe add a little bit of black to it. Basically, I want this to be like some leaves over here as well. There we go. And we'll just put some of that darker color kind of off on the side here because it's going to be behind these trees. All right. All right, let's go ahead and make us some little fence line here. We'll go ahead and use some kind of like a grayish color that we're going to create right here. Watering it down a little bit. Adding a little bit more white to it. That's my cat. Hey, Nova. Oh, don't knock the camera over. Okay. We're going to find a point back here. And we'll make kind of a little post right there. And maybe we'll have a little light here, very small because it's so far away. There we go. Now we can kind of find some posts. These posts are going to be really far away, but they're going to look like they're pretty close to each other. So Just gonna go straight up, right next to each other. I'm adding a little more black now because I'm getting closer to us. Kind of getting that darker mixture that we have. And now I think we'll add another lamp post about right here. There we go. That's a pretty good base for it. Kind of trying to draw just like a straight pole. Nice. I think I'm going to get some more black. Nope. She's trying to knock over my camera right now. Okay. Okay, intermission. Because she's being so cute. Come here. This is what I'm looking at right here while I'm trying to paint. It's so cute though. She's so cute. This is Nova. All right. Let's try to get back to painting. Okay, so I've got some black now. And I'm just kind of going to outline the base of this pole a little bit. Maybe blend a little bit of black into that gray. Then I can start to add the next layer of the pole maybe. Maybe it sort of comes out a little bit like that. Get some water here. Try to make this go straight up if I can. Start making the lines of our basket. Get some water. And we'll put like this little topper on it. Okay, I'll grab some white. Down here. And I'll sort of just make some little accents on this back side and just kind of outlining. Maybe there's like a bulb right here. Kind of make this little thing. Maybe there's like a few, like kind of like glass, so we'll put like reflection. Just dry brushing a little bit here. And then I'll come down, put that gray. Let's get some of that gray. On the left side. Perfect. Nice. Now what we can do is we're able to grab our number 2 flat brush and some pure black now. Maybe a little water again. And we can draw a few posts coming this way. Now these, they can be a little more spaced apart. But again, we're going to move further down. So you're gonna think about the perspective. So it's kind of going at this angle like this. So I'm imagining that kind of line right there, and that's where I'll put the top of the next one. Now come a little further down, it's the same thing, imagining that line. And maybe we'll put one big one right here. Awesome. Okay. We'll just go back to our liner real quick with that black. And maybe there's a few wires holding this all together. I'll grab some of that gray and we'll do the same thing. Maybe in the very distance. Okay, I'm gonna add a little bit of definition on these front trees right here. So we'll go ahead and grab some of our burnt umber. So some burnt umber, a little bit of white. I'm about to run out of white. Typical. And I'm gonna go ahead and use that number 2 flat brush. And I'll start with pure brown, pure burnt umber. It's a nice dark brown. And I'll start thinking about maybe where there's some lighter parts of this tree along the edges. And I'll draw some kind of some texture. So what I mean by that is maybe some straight lines here and there towards the middle of the tree. Kind of let the paint go dry a little bit and you'll get this dry texture on the tree. Then I'll use that brown and I'll come down onto those roots. We'll come down towards those roots. Get some up here. I'll do the same on this big front tree right here. Then what I'll do is I'll just add a little bit of white to that. Create kind of a mid-tone. And with that, I'll just grab the very edge of this tree. I'll grab that liner brush. And we'll be able to get some nice little texture, maybe like bark or something. Maybe there's little knobs on the tree. You can use your finger here and there. Kind of blend it out if you use too much or whatever. And then I'll just add a little bit of white to that. Kind of like this gray color here. Kind of a grayish white maybe. I'm trying to make sort of the same tone for this one. Sort of that grayish. Let's see what we got. Yeah, that's fine. I just want something to kind of create that texture. And I'll grab a little bit, make it a little darker. And I'll put that on the back side over here. And I'll put some little details in the center of that tree as well. And we'll grab that light kind of gray, almost white. And I'll put just a little bit on the very front of this tree. A little more of that brown here. Put some, whoop, that's too much. Just wipe it away with the finger. There we go. There's just a few things I want to add let's see, a little bit of this grayish color. I'm gonna water it down into kind of like a glaze. And I'm gonna very carefully kind of like a shadow, very lightly. And I'll kind of do the same thing for a few of these smaller ones. There we go. Now what I want to do is grab a little bit of burnt sienna. And what I want to do is kind of darken this up and add a little bit more kind of foliage behind these posts and in this back area. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to mix up sort of that color again, but I'll make it a little darker. Whoa, we're dripping a little water. So I'll add a little bit of that burnt sienna into our white. A little bit of the raw umber into that. And I'll sort of look at it, sort of eyeball it. Maybe add a little more burnt umber. And now let's see here. Okay. And we'll just add some stuff back here. Kind of giving the illusion of some land way back here. Just kind of watered down some of that color that we had just made. And giving it like a little glaze. There, I like that a lot better. I feel like it was a little too light over here earlier, but now this looks a little more balanced, which I like, so that's perfect. I'll just grab some black and I'll kind of re-go over this because I accidentally got some of that color on there. Add just a tiny bit of black right behind those shadows. That'll give some nice depth to those shadows. Maybe a little more to this lamppost. And we'll go ahead and also redefine our kind of like our fence line here. Water down some black. Perfect. Okay, now what I want to do is I want to create some fog. So I want to kind of make this disappear a bit more. So what we're going to do is we're going to mix up kind of like this background color that we first started with. And we'll lighten it up with a lot of water and we'll make kind of a fogginess back here. So first let's mix up that color. So for that we're going to need, whoops. We need kind of what we have right here. So we got that white, a little bit of burnt sienna, and some of that burnt umber. But we're going to lean more towards just white and burnt sienna. So I'll go ahead and take some of that white and we'll bring it down here. Mix a little bit of burnt sienna into it. That's already pretty close, maybe just a very small amount of burnt umber. And that's looking pretty good. So that'll be the color we use. We don't need a whole lot. Put that aside. And what we'll do is we'll go back with our 1¼ oval mop brush. Grab a little bit of water, a little bit of that paint. We'll start with a little bit, kind of this translucent mixture is what we're looking for. And we'll have paper towels ready because if we add too much, we can dab it away. So let's go in here and I'm just going to swirl all the way in the back. And you can see how it's already covering, and that's what we want. Now I don't want to cover this lamppost because this is really close to us. I'm just going to try to get this very background. And then I'll get some paper towel. I'll dab the front a bit. Get a little bit of water. I didn't really want to dab away, so we'll just put a little water right there. Mix it in, and it should lift up. And then I'm just going to tap in a little bit more of that color. And we'll just do the same thing. I'll even have the paper towel in my hand here. And I'll just create a bunch of fog right here in the distance. Dab it up. It's kind of something you got to play with, you know, until you get what you want. It's already looking a lot better to me, but you know what? I'm going to go ahead and add some of it over to this side as well. And I want to add the same thing back here. So I'll just be a little careful, very lightly adding it in there. Maybe I'll put a little at the base of this tree. And just kind of blend it upwards a little bit. The base of the tree, blend it up. Just like that. I'll get a little bit more. A little more paint. And I'm going to cover this path back here just a little bit. I want this path to almost disappear back there. Right now I'm just kind of tapping it. And that looks pretty good to me. I like that a lot. I'm gonna go ahead and do the same back here a bit. Nice. And I'll just grab some water. And maybe I'll do just a little bit at the base of these trees, towards the front. There we go. I think that's good for fog. Okay, now we're getting there. We're almost to the final part here. But you know what? I've made the decision that we're going to put just a little bit of light here from these lampposts. So to do that, we're going to take the smallest amount of lemon yellow. It's a very strong color. Just a tiny amount. And I'm going to use our number 2 flat brush for this. We'll take a little bit of that yellow, a touch of some of this white over here. Kind of water it down again. And I'll just take a little more yellow there. We'll just start in the center. And we'll do this circular. Maybe there's little lines. Dab that, we don't want it too strong. Grab some water. We'll grab a bit of white here. Very gently. Have some of that light spraying down. I'll take a dab of that white, tiny bit of water. And very gently, we'll do just a few little rays of light. I don't want too much, so if I feel like there's too much, again, just dab it a little bit. Again, dab it a little bit. And what I'll do is I'll take some of that white, some of that yellow maybe too, and I'll just put kind of like a, maybe there's a little bulb right here. Just like that. And there we go. I'm gonna grab a little bit of black. I just wanna, again, redefine the top of our lantern here, since we kind of misted it a little bit a second ago. There we go. For this, I'm going to use a #1 round brush. It's still a pretty precise brush, but it will allow me to cover also a lot of area if I need to. And I'm just going to get some white here on our palette. And I'll get a bit of black as well for some shadows. Maybe some faint shadows, maybe mix up a few grays. Okay, and now we'll just go completely with that #1 round. And I'll kind of mix up like a little gray, so grab just a touch of black and some white. Get a little bit of water. I don't want to be too thick with the paint yet. And we're just going to find our outline here. Okay, let's start getting some white into this mix. I'll just rinse my brush and grab some white. Kind of mix it into that watery gray that we have. And I don't really want this to be anything detailed or anything. kind of imagine like almost like fabric, like maybe there's these little ruffles that come down. I'll do the same with him over here. A few things that come down. Maybe they kind of blend together here. Go ahead and add a little more white. Here we go. Okay, I'm starting to like this. I was a little scared at first, but it's starting to come together a little bit. I'm gonna grab a little bit of black here, and I'll put some shadows. It's gonna be like a darker gray. I'm gonna mix up here, and I'm gonna be a little careful with this, but let's see if we can put like some shadows, maybe towards the base. Maybe I can use my finger a little bit, blend upwards. There we go. Maybe like there's a few ripples. There we go. Maybe a little separation at the arm here. There we go. Same thing over here. put a few things here. A few little things, nothing crazy. Maybe we'll put a little bit of white back in there. I feel like I might have darkened up the back a bit too much here. I'm gonna grab a little white. It's got a little bit of water in there too. And maybe their arms kind of got these raggedy, maybe they're a little raggedy here. Same thing over here. Get that kind of flowy feeling, you know? Maybe they're not like bad ghosts. Maybe they're almost like flowy angel ghosts. We don't want it to feel too spooky here. I kind of like that. It's not too crazy. Nothing, you know, it's simple. It's effective. Maybe we can make it more look like she's got a dress over here. Maybe this one kind of comes out a bit. Maybe this sort of flows out. There. Honestly, I feel like this is pretty good here. This is pretty good. All I want to do now is make the whites a little bit richer. So I'm going to get rid of a bit of that water. I'm just going to dry it up a little bit and we'll take basically pure white. And we'll make sure we got our brush loaded up. And we'll just kind of reinforce some of these areas. So while we're waiting for that to dry, we'll wait about 10 minutes for that to dry, and then I'll come back and maybe put a little bit of white fog around them. But while we wait, I'm going to take some watered down black, and all I did, and then I just kind of rolled the brush to make a fine tip. And I just want to put a few little shadows and things on the tree here to kind of get some contrast at the roots. I'll just add a few little things here and there. Kind of break up the edge of this path. Make it look a bit more natural. Okay, so now that our ghosts are dry, we're gonna get some white, a little bit of water, and we're gonna kind of blend them a bit back here. So I'll start with the base of them. See if we can sort of blend the base of them out a bit. And we'll just kind of go all around them. Get a little more water and paint. A little too wet here. Just all I did was dry my brush a bit just now. And kind of dab a bit on the outside. There we go. A little bit thicker of a white is all I did just now. Just to really give them this glow. Just very carefully dab up some of this. Trying to get the right amount, you know, back here behind them. Grab a little more paint here. And I want to get this center area a lot more around them. And with that, this painting is complete. I really hope that you all enjoyed painting along with me today. This was really fun to do, and I'm really excited to keep producing videos like these. If you enjoyed this, please like and subscribe and leave me a comment telling me what you think or what you want a full step-by-step tutorial to be about next. If you'd like to see another tutorial, you can click right here. I hope you all have a calm and creative day, and as always, peaceful painting.